Morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to our Saturday morning community chat. And we are very excited to have Thia Lutich here with us this morning. And Tia is my dear friend, and she is a former colleague of mine. And actually, I've worked with Tia on both sides. I've worked with her as a colleague, shoulder to shoulder, and I've also worked with her as a parent. She was my son's teacher in second grade and also in fourth grade, and just so dear and near to us. And I'm just excited to be able to share her love of education with you and just her spirit and how she really is an advocate for students. And she really is very skilled at creating partnerships with families. So I'm going to hand it over to Tia now and let her take over.
Thank you, Heather. What a great introduction. My name is Tia. I was an educator for 12 years and decided to leave the classroom and open up my own business so that I can bridge the gaps between the school and families and serve families on a more intimate level. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm here today and it's such an honor. I have I feel like I was put on this planet to support families. And I'm passionate about this because as a child, I struggled with reading, I struggled with literacy, and a little bit about my background. My parents didn't have the resources. They didn't know what they didn't know. And they weren't able to give me the support that I needed as a child. And so now I'm in a position where I do know. And now I want to give what I know to you as families. And I know intimately the struggles. I know intimately the frustration. And that's where you might be today. So I'm here to help you. And I'm excited to share some things with you. So today you might be feeling, you're here because you have either been flagged by your child's teacher that your child is having a reading problem, or you're here because you just know something is off with your child. So it's one or two scenarios, right? And so your feelings with that, you might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be feeling fear for the present. You also might be projecting fear for the future of the what if. You also might be feeling shame around this idea of my child is struggling. And I'm just here to tell you, I really want to lift you up and give you love and support. It is not your fault if your child is struggling. There's other issues that are going on. So if you could just take that to the side and just put it aside and just hear whatever I have to say today. I don't know it all. I'm giving you just some things that I have created and given to families, but just put the shame aside because it's not your fault. And we as moms, I'm a mom too. I have 2 daughters. There's so much shame that goes into parenting. And you just need support. That's all. So I want to empower you today with some questions that you can go in, ask your teacher, and feel like you know what's going on. So some questions that you can ask your teacher so that you can get support for your child, but also for you. All right, so should we get started? All right.
Let's do this.
All right, Heather's my partner today. I'm so excited to do this alongside with her. Like she already mentioned, we have been colleagues before. So any of the specifics that you might be wondering or needing, I'll refer to our reading specialist, Heather. So let's get started. Also, I wanted to mention, I've created a document for you that I would love to give to you. So if you're interested, just please leave your email in the chat box at any time, and I'll make sure I email it to you. And in the meantime, I'll give you a quick view of it. So this is questions to ask your teacher when something feels off. So I'm going to go through this. And as I speak, I'd love for you're going to probably want to take notes because I'm going to give you a lot of my anecdotes. All right, so let's get started. Our first step. you're in the feeling of something's off with my kid. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. You might also be feeling, I don't want to burden my child's teacher. They're so busy. It's probably not a big deal. So this is the thing. This is like the beginning stages. This is why I love that we're having this conversation at the beginning of September, because this is around the time where you're starting to feel like, I don't know, something just feels off. I just want to encourage you to not wait. Trust your gut instinct. You might not know where to go from that point. That's why we're giving you some skill, some tools today, but trust that gut instinct. So my first tip for you is not a question. My first tip for you is to connect. This is a must. I tell all of my clients in the beginning of the year, you have to connect with your teacher. And if you haven't done it already, it's not too late. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't go to the shame bucket. It's not too late. You have to start with this for so many reasons. Number one, it sets the tone that you are aware of what's happening to your child, you care, and it sets the tone that you're open to communication and you're open to a partnership. When you start this, the connecting email is a warm, friendly email, introducing yourself, just opening the line of communication. It is not an asking email. You don't ask for anything in this email. You don't say anything really that requires a feedback. It's just a warm, hey, Miss Jones, I am Tia. I have my daughter Ava is in your classroom this year. She is so excited to start this year off with you. If there's anything that you need from us, let us know. It's just a connecting. It's warm, it's friendly, it's engaging. And starting out this way really makes it easier. Maybe in a week or two down the road when things are not as easy and you have an ask. It sets that, it opens that communication.
I love that, Tia. I just have to say,
Thank you.
it's so important to do that. And also, I was thinking too, what about if they give them, like, if they notice something that they like a compliment, like one thing too? Don't you think that also could
Yes.
just pointing
Yes.
out something that you like about the classroom or the teacher, or thank you for welcoming my child, he or she is feeling really comfortable right now, or something like that, something positive.
It's, yes, something positive. And what you just said too, if you have one little detail that your child has given you about the teacher, what it does, it immediately sets the teacher, it like lowers the shoulders and it's like, oh, the kid's talking to the parent. Oh, this parent is really, ooh, they have a communication.
And
This kid,
also they feel like they're valued too, because I know, as a former general ed teacher too, a lot of times you just don't feel valued by
yeah,
the parents. And if you could just find value in that teacher and share that with them, I think that will goes a long way.
it's so true.
Yeah,
It goes, and then the teacher is more ready and available to serve you, to help you,
absolutely.
to be there for your child. And that's ultimately what we want.
Yes, 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 yes.
We want, here's the goal too. We want our parents, or excuse me, we want our teachers to know we value them, but also that this is about my child. The end,
Right.
right? And I'm here to support you so that you
It's a
can
partnership, right? It's a
support
partnership.
my, yeah, for sure, for
Right.
sure. So that's a very
Love
important
it,
one.
love it.
All right. And so then now we're going to get into the questions. So you've made that warm connection, you have that partnership that's already kind of started. And so now let's say we're getting into, now we have some questions. Now it's back to that trigger of, I think something's wrong with my child's reading. So you have an appointment with them. And the first question that you can ask them is, hey, what does my child do well? That's the question, right? What does my child do well for you in here in
I
your
love that.
classroom?
I love that too. Can I chime in and just
Yes,
tell you?
please,
Because if
please.
a parent comes in and asks, like, you're setting the tone that
Yeah,
we're coming from a strength-based conversation. Let's start with
yeah,
what they're doing well. And what are
Yeah.
they good at before you go into what are they struggling with. I love, love, love that.
Heather, and you know what's it's interesting about this too, and this is hard as parents because we all know, we're all parents here. We all know when there's something up with our child, we're not thinking the positive. Our alarm system, our nervous system inside our body is going alert, alert. I mean, it's a panicking feeling. And so I want to encourage, start out positively because it will calm your nervous system, but it also keeps the tone of,
It will.
it's not panic time. No one's dying. No one's like, it's okay. Right?
Right.
It just calms everything down. And the teacher will notice that more than you can ever imagine, because the teacher is also on high alert because, oh no, the family's coming in. Little Johnny is having an issue and the family is upset.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's a little different.
Good point. Love that.
Oh, and then most importantly, once you ask it, be quiet and listen. Really listen, watch their body language, watch their tone. Do they have an answer for you? Do they struggle to find an answer? Are they pulling at strings to find something for you? Just really watch and listen. You will get a lot of information just by that response. All right, and then number 3 is our meaty question. This is a heavier one, so you might want to get your pencils out for this one. Number 3 question, we went over what's positive, right? Now we got to get into why we're here. Number 3 question is, what does my child struggle with in reading? And then be quiet. You would be surprised how many parents don't ask this question. They are just in, it's conference time, let's say. They don't know how to ask this. And it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear what our kids struggle with. It's hard. And so there's 2 scenarios, again, what we talked about in the beginning. You're either here because the teacher flagged you in, your kid has a problem, or you are flagging your teacher in and saying, I know there's an issue. So if a teacher has flagged you in, it might sound like, Johnny really is not doing very good with his AR scores. Okay. Heather, you can join in anytime.
Yes.
So teachers get data, right? We give an assessment and we get a whole bunch of data back from our kids, all sorts of assessments that they take. Now, these assessments, something that you need to know as parents, these assessment scores will alert the teacher based on the class information, the grade level information, the school information, and year to year. And then it also shows the teacher on some assessments nationwide or statewide and nationwide. So your kid is falling in line and flagged according to all of these points. What I want to encourage you is that there's a lot more that goes into reading than one assessment. This is really important. So if your teacher has said something like that, this assessment that I gave, he's not doing well on this assessment. Here's some more detailed questions that are even more important than just that one score. Number 1, have you heard my child read?
That's a huge one. Oh my gosh, because there's a lot of teachers that haven't even heard their students read.
It's true, parents. I mean, it's heartbreaking. This information is not easy to even share, but I'm telling you, as Heather just said it too, I mean, as a classroom teacher for so many years, and also a parent, and also with other colleagues, they're not listening to our kids read. With one-on-one, let me hear you read. It seems so basic, right? But
you'd be surprised at how often it doesn't happen.
They're relying on the recording of a reading. They're relying on a test. That's so huge. So then, have you heard my child read? And the way you ask it, just be curious. Come from a curiosity place rather than an attacking place.
Mhm.
That's a little tip for you.
Yes.
And then I would go into, if your child is younger, K through 2, I would say, how are they doing with their rhyming? How are they doing with their sounds? How are they doing with their letter recognition? Heather, did I miss any of those?
I think those are all really good, right? And like, what does their spelling look like too?
So
What
yeah,
is, can I see any of that? Do you have any information to show me? Like, I'd love to, because spelling really gives you a window into their skills, their
yes,
phonological awareness skills,
yes.
right?
So with the younger, just the rhyming, their sounds and their letter recognition. And then I would say
Blending, if they can blend like three
blending their
letter words,
sound.
segmenting, right? Where are they? Do you have any information on that? Like, if you can be a little bit more specific with the questions that you ask the parents and see if they can give you that information. They might not be able to.
Yeah, they
And
might.
then if they can't, you need to say, how can I get that information?
So these questions right now is just you're getting information. You're getting more detailed outside of just the AR scores.
Right.
You're also going to ask them, how are their sight words? Do they have sight words specifically? This is important, parents. A sight word for a child to be able to say, yeah, I know my sight words. It's an ability to read a sight word within 3 seconds. That's it. So it's the fluidity of their reading. It's automatic. And also, can they spell it?
Right.
Can they spell them?
So we want them to map those words. So those sight words need to be just be able to
Well,
read in a nanosecond and be able to spell them. It's that orthographic mapping, right?
yes. And then Heather mentioned spelling already. Where are the errors in their spelling? This is, like she's already mentioned, it's a really great window into what their challenges are and what they're experiencing. And we want to know, are they making the errors just in their tests? Are they making it also in their application when they're writing just sentences? Where are the errors specifically? And then, of course, the easy question on reading that everyone just knows is the comprehension. Are they understanding what they're reading? Are they able to retell to you what they just read? So I'm just going to take a pause because that's a lot. And I know in a parent brain, I would be feeling a little overwhelmed right now, but this is where I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I just listen to it, process it, and know that you have support. You're not supposed to know all of this, by the way, just like I'm not supposed to
That's
go
for
into a
sure.
doctor's office and know all the ins and outs of what my doctor does and the tests that my doctor gives to me. You're not supposed to. This is our expertise, why we're giving it to you. This is the support that you have.
Thank you, Tia. That's so important too, right? Is knowing
No,
that, yeah, we're a resource for you through IDA here. So
for sure. For sure. So there's a lot more that goes into reading than just the AR score.
yeah, if they tell you that the AR score is, they are not meeting the benchmark in the AR score, we have to dive deeper and figure out why. Or if they're not understanding, it's because the AR is comprehension. Why aren't they comprehending? Comprehension is that big picture. So we have to break it down and look at those other components of reading, the phonemic awareness, the fluency, the vocabulary, all of those things we need to take a look at and dive deep into them. So
And your teacher, if your teacher doesn't, here's another thing too. If your teacher says, well, if they can't answer some of these questions to you, that's a trigger point for a parent. I would really recommend that you could pause and say, okay, well then it looks like we need to get some more information on my child. Okay, so then, and we'll touch on that too in a little bit. So there's a lot more that goes into reading. And what I wanted to share also, so, and we kind of referenced this in the questions that I gave you, but there's actually 5 components of reading that I think would be nice for parents to understand. So the first is phonemic awareness. It's identifying, hearing, and manipulating sounds. The second one is phonics, connecting letter sounds. Number 3 is fluency, reading accurately with expression at an appropriate rate. In the classroom, we would say, and your kid might be, you might have heard this before with your child. We can't sound like a robot, mom. So no robot reading. And 4, vocabulary, understanding and defining and using new words. And then of course the comprehension, which comprehension is also, it's understanding and analyzing what you read, but also what you have heard, which also gives us another window. If they're having struggle with comprehension, is it when they hear something, when they're listening, or when it's them reading themselves?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is huge for a student that is struggling with reading. When they don't comprehend what they read, but their listening comprehension is really good. So that they can comprehend this information. So where is that breakdown? So that's a big a red flag. Like if they understand, like if you read a story to them and they're great with the comprehension, they can retell it start to finish, lots of details, but when it comes to reading, they cannot make those connections. That's a big one. So I'm so glad you brought that up too.
Thank you. All right. So that was 3. That was only on question 3. Question 4 is, I really love this one. So you've gone through, what are the struggles? Now you can kind of take a break and get curious. So can you tell me more about how you teach reading in your classroom? I love this one. And how you ask it. I really want to encourage asking with a tone of curiosity and a place of interest to learn from your part. And here's why. Sometimes teachers can be defensive. It just is the truth. They can be defensive and they can feel like you are attacking them. They know that the most important thing in your whole world is their child. So of course, when you ask them a question, they could get very like, oh, they don't like me. They don't think I know what I'm doing. They can get in their own head and insecure. It's just the truth. So if you can gentle your world and your brain and your space and come from a place of, can you tell me more on how you teach reading in your class? It will kind of hopefully soften it, right? And then just get curious. And then teachers will love to share. Teachers are passionate people for the most part. They're there and they want to share what they do. And they're in a box, right? They don't get to interact with adults and share their art with humans very often, unless they ask.
Yeah.
So if you ask her or him, then it'd be like, oh yeah, let me tell you how I teach reading. That's so fun in my classroom. We do this, we do that, we do this. Or it might be a tone of like, the kids get their book and they're all on guided reading, or they're all on their own level and they read around the classroom, and right? Depending on how they respond to you, you're going to get so much information. And again, you're thinking of your own child and you're thinking, okay, I have a window into the classroom right now. And now I see that my child needs more support because based on that reaction, or my child's in a really good place and my kid still needs more support, but they're in a really good place. It's just a really good opportunity to listen how your teacher explains reading time. Heather, what do you think?
I think that's a great point too. It's like, what does it look like? Are they able to give specifics on how they teach reading? Do they have reading groups? Do they teach, is it structured literacy?
Yes.
That's another good question to ask is, how do you implement structured literacy in the classroom? So.
What Heather means too about structured literacy, it is truly a specific time in the classroom where there are specific skills strategically taught to your child.
Absolutely.
It's so important. It's not this broad umbrella of it's reading time.
Right.
It's detailed instruction.
Yeah. Good point. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Tia.
Yeah. It's hard to, there's so much that goes into the classroom. And as a parent, I know from my friends, I know from my family outside, they're not in the classroom. They don't know. There's so much to know. And if you don't have the questions, then we just continue to have surface understanding of our kids' education.
Right.
Okay, number 5. So you get a picture of how they're taught in their classroom. Number 5 is going back to, you feel like there's an issue with your child's reading, or the child has been flagged from your teacher. Number 5 is a really important question. Are you using interventions with my child? Now, this question shows the teacher that you know what you're talking about, and you're not playing games.
Right.
So let me just share a little bit. Interventions are more than just a pull-out class. Okay, there's a lot more interventions. So you might hear your child say, "Oh, Susie gets pulled out for reading, mom." Okay, that's one intervention. That's the common, that you can hear that, but you don't really know what goes into that. But there's a lot of other interventions that can happen within the classroom that I'd like to share. And sometimes you don't even know that your kid is receiving these interventions unless you ask.
Good point. Really good point.
So things like special seating, repeated directions, written directions, frequent breaks, frequent ability to move, close proximity to the teacher, and even eye contact with the teacher is very subtle interventions that happen. Now, then, of course, there's more advanced interventions that are more specific to the academic needs. And you also need to know about that if your kid is receiving those interventions. And if your teacher asks no, or if your teacher says no to any of these, they're not receiving any intervention, what I want to empower you with is that it's okay to ask for them. A lot of parents get a little intimidated by, well, I can't ask my teacher for things, and unless they tell me that my kid needs it. I just want to encourage you, you're the parent, you know your child better than anybody in this entire universe, and you know what they need. If your child needs to move, ask for it. There's nothing wrong with it. If your child needs to be closer to the front of the classroom, or closer to the teacher, or repeated directions, all of those are fantastic interventions to give your child. Anything on that, Heather?
No, I think that's a really, really good point. And then there's the academic intervention. So I would say we can accommodate, like you said, accommodate and, move seating, preferential seating, break things down, directions, all those things for the students. But then there's there's a lot the teacher can do in the classroom to support students that are struggling with reading. And that tier 2 intervention doesn't always have to be a pullout. So if the teacher knows the child is struggling, what is he or she doing in the classroom to support them?
Yes.
So I think that's really what parents need to ask their teachers.
Yes.
What are you doing? If you say my child's struggling, or I'm noticing the struggles, what can you do to really help them?
Yes. What is happening? What are you doing to support them?
Right.
And then another really good question to follow up on that, are you using interventions in the classroom for my child? The next one would be, and how does my child respond to those?
Yes. Huge, right?
Right? Because we want our child to grow. We want them to succeed. We want to know also, guys, it's also not just academic. It's also about their social and emotional component as well. How are they responding to these?
Do they not, when you call on kids to read, what do they do? Do they have to go to the bathroom when it's reading time? That's a big one, right?
Yes. Do they drop their pencil on the ground a lot?
Yes.
Are they nervous? Are they another thing too, anything that is out of character for your child is a sign that they need something. It's not that kids are not bad kids. So, and I say this because sometimes I'm going to be stereotypical, but boys will start becoming, more boisterous, or girls too. I take that back. I had a little girl that just popped in my head when I said that. So I actually don't want to say that, but, they'll start acting out of their character. They'll start blurting out, or they'll start becoming, distracting to their peers, anything that's like, what's going on? Pay attention to that, what's going on, because it's a sign. It's a sign of how they're responding to something.
Right.
And we're here to collect information. The intervention period is a time for you and your teacher to collect information, because we want to know if it's working. We need to know if whatever that teacher is doing, let's say she's put your child on tier 2, like Heather mentioned, we need to document.
Right.
And so
Monitor
we
that
need to
progress,
know,
right?
we need to monitor the progress. And it's usually a 12-week period for them to really understand if it is or not working. And you can also document what's happening, right? So, and then that's just the communication with the teacher. The teacher can, you can come up with a system of, okay, if they're on a tier 2, I want to know how my child is doing every week, or can you give me that information so that I can keep information, keep documentation for myself.
And what they
And
can do at home too, right? To support what's going on in the classroom.
yes,
That's also big.
that is a very big point. Yeah.
So when you create that partnership, you also want to know, I want to help you. What can I do at home to
Yes.
help what's going on in the classroom? And I think if you have that conversation, that really creates a partnership. Wouldn't you say, Tia? Like if a parent says that to you, what can I do to support the child at home? Then you feel as the general ed teacher, okay, I don't have this all on my back.
Yes.
I have a partnership with this parent and we're going to do this together, right?
Absolutely. I want to mention something. On parent teacher conferences, teachers have 20 minutes per family. And I was asked, I remember when Heather just mentioned that, it put me back into my classroom. I remember, I had my families lined up back to back to back to back. And it's stressful. And when a parent who really cares asks, so what can I do at home? I got to tell you, it's really easy for teachers to go generic. Oh, just make sure you're doing spelling, make sure you're doing reading, make sure you're just. I really want to encourage you to ask for an appointment outside of conference time, because that gives your teacher a more opportunity to be authentic with you and share the ins and outs of the true classroom experience so that you can be true partners. The conference time is a system that's created by the school district that is so difficult on teachers. We can't be our best in 20 minutes back to back for families. Depending on what school you're in, you have 16 to 30 families, right? It's a lot. And I'm not saying that, by the way, I'm not saying that to excuse the teachers. I'm just saying that this is the truth. So when you ask, what can I do at home? After you've heard about the interventions, after you've heard how your child is responding, the teacher might, on a real conversation, the teacher might be able to give you real feedback on, oh, thank you for asking what you can do at home. He really seems to be nervous when I call him over to my reading table. Maybe you can have conversations at home on why I call him over to my reading table. And maybe you can tell him how much I care about him when I call him over to the reading table. And it's my time to lift him up in reading and lift his skills up and make him a more confident reader. Because I try to say it in the classroom, but maybe if hears
Yeah.
if he
Wow,
hears it
that's a
from
good
you
point.
too, it'd be more powerful.
That's huge. So that's really saying to having the parents say to the child that they trust the child as well. They trust the teacher as well. And so
Yeah.
the student has more, or the child has more trust in the teacher, especially if they're struggling with reading. So if the parent is, I think, embracing the fact that the teacher's trying to help them, it
Mm.
just eases the child's anxiety too. But if the
Yes.
parent, don't you think if the parent behind the scenes is saying not nice things about the teacher in
Yes.
front of the student, the child, it creates a wall up for the child, and the child brings that into the classroom because they're hearing it at home.
100%.
Yeah.
So if you have an issue with your teacher, I would recommend talking outside with your
Absolutely.
teacher, not
Never in
it's
front of.
about the child, right? Honestly, I know it's hard because when we don't like something in another adult, it's easy to just share it in our home.
At dinner table, at the dinner table.
But the
Yeah.
little ears are not able to process and understand what this grown up is saying. I mean, I am so passionate about this piece because it puts a wall up on your child. And if we're really trying to lift our children up and educate them to the best of our abilities, it also comes with our responsibility of how we speak in front of them.
And building that partnership. It has to be a partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. So then how they respond, and again, just really listen to their responses. If your child is having a negative response to intervention and your teacher is telling you this negative response, it's easy. Again, I've had so many parents that get defensive, that you want to defend. Oh, well, it's because he really does have to go to the bathroom, or it's because he really, oh no, he is chatty, or oh no, he does need to get that drink of water every 30 seconds. Oh no. But just try to remember, okay, this is not about me. My teacher is not, it's not about you. It's really not about you. It's about your child. And so if your child is showing a negative response to intervention, it's really good for you to hear.
Yes.
It just gives us more information. All right.
Do we want to open it up for questions? I know we have a few people here with us today.
Yeah.
It's a small group and we can open it up for questions. If anybody has a question that they want to ask Thia or myself, we're happy to help.
I will ask a question. What do you feel about, in the interest of time, submitting questions ahead of time to the teacher and therapist?
Kind of cutting out.
I think I got that, Veronica. I think you were saying, what do you feel about getting questions ahead of time?
Great idea.
I think that's a great idea because it prepares the teacher in advance. And I think if you frame it positively, like we don't want to frame those questions in an email that come off in a negative way, but if you can frame it positively and have these questions, like I'm really looking for the answers for these questions, and these are the questions that I have. And again, building that, if you have that relationship too built beforehand, and don't you think, Thia? And then if
100,
you
yeah.
come in and with those questions, they're going to be received much better than if you have a negative relationship with your teacher.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
I think
That's an awesome question.
that's a great question. Yes. Love the pre-frame of questions for the meeting. Love it.
Anybody else?
Good question. Oh.
No.
So I'll just share a couple. We'll just keep going then. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat for us. My seventh question, and I'll speed it up a little bit, is: are you tracking my child's progress, and how are you tracking the progress? That goes back to the intervention. And then my last question is my favorite one. Gives a lot of insight on how your teacher is feeling about her position as a teacher, her space in the classroom, and just kind of her overall vibe as an educator. Do you have any support, or is it all on you?
Yeah, that's huge too, right?
I think so. I think it gives if you are you working with a reading specialist in your school district or on your campus? And watch and listen how she responds or he responds, because it gives you great insight on how they're feeling. If they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're feeling encouraged, if they're feeling supported, motivated, excited to be there, excited for their partnerships with their colleagues, or if they're not. And it gives you a lot of insight, because again, our number one focus and goal is your child. So based on that vibe of that teacher, you're going to get a lot of window into their classroom. That's my last question.
Yay! And that's a really important one too, as well. So, And again, it's all about, I think, that partnership. So everything that you said this morning has to do with creating that relationship with the teacher and that partnership. And that last question that you just said, Tia, too, is do you have any support, shows that you are showing, okay, I think the parent really cares about me,
Yes,
and is also, realizing that, it's not all on me. It's
right,
not all on me. So I love
right,
that.
right.
Thanks, everybody. So Tia, I know you have a slide that you wanted to share as well, too, which
Yes,
want to go
yes.
ahead and
So
share
thank
your
you so
slide.
much for being here this morning with me. I just wanted to share a little bit more information. I have opened up my calendar for you. I run a family group and I have one-on-ones with kids and parents. So I reserved just a couple spots are open now for your one-on-ones with kids. If you know your child needs a little bit more support, or you need some support on some of the questions that we've asked, and you just are curious about how to get deep in the relationship between you and your family, I'm here for you. And I also I open the doors for my empowered parenting community. It's a strong group of families, and we talk about all sorts of issues and school issues, parenting issues. My goal is to eradicate this feeling of overwhelm in parenting. So that's what I would love to offer you. And if you're interested, I'd love for you to put your email in the chat box and I'll follow up with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you as parents being, dedicated and interested in your child's reading, and for actually, for coming to this chat today. Just shows that you are invested and wanting some support, and we're here to help you. So again, thank you for sharing this space with us today. And thank you, Tia, so much for all of that information. And again, just your spirit, it just shines through because you're so warm and welcoming. We wish all teachers could be like you, but they're not. But they're not. That's how the world is. So and what makes the world go round. But thank you again so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us today. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have you back again for sure.
Thank you. It was such an honor and just really nice to be able to be here with you all.
Thanks, Tia.